Hi viewers, the video today will feature another watch from Seiko, and this is the most expensive Seiko watch I've ever bought. It's not a grand Seiko, but it's not far off. This is the SPB143, and this retails for around about $1,300. It's a lot of money, and is it worth it? That's what we're going to look at in this video. There are a lot of good things about it, very few negatives, but I want to establish whether the price point is right or should it be a lot less. Let's go into the specs first of all, and just give you an idea of the size of this watch. It is a beautiful sweet spot of 40.5mm for the case size. The case height is 13.2mm and the lug to lug is just 47.6mm. And the lug width is 20mm and the bracelet tapers to 18mm. So the proportions of this watch are absolutely perfect. I mean, it's spot on. The watch case and the bracelet have the Seiko Diashield coating, which gives it a much tougher and scratch resistant surface. It also makes it look a little bit darker. The stainless steel almost has a titanium appearance about it. And you can certainly feel something. It feels a bit different to your standard stainless steel watches. But it does look nice. It has a great overall presence and will definitely be more durable. The bezel looks like brushed ceramic, but it's not. It's actually a brushed steel bezel, again coated in the Diashield, and it is very tough and scratch resistant, and I think it looks really smart. I do like that matte finish. Looks very nice. And then we come to the bracelet itself. Now, a lot of people like the bracelet. They say it's really good, and a lot of people say it's a load of rubbish. I'm in between. It's definitely better than all the other Seiko bracelets I've ever handled. They usually make, I don't know why, but Seiko usually make pretty rubbish bracelets. I've never been impressed with their bracelets. This one is good, but it doesn't feel like a bracelet that belongs on a $1,300 watch. It feels nice, and it's has a nice silky flowing movement to it, but it's definitely not perfect. Look at the movement in between the lugs here. That's not good. And between the links, you know, you don't get that on a high-end Swiss watch. It's just poor. And just push pin links removal system. The clasp is okay, but it has a very awkward diver's extension which sits under here. Very hard to pull out, and I don't really think that's a good system at all, because when it sits on the wrist, this bit buckles up a bit and it just looks bad. So that is a bit of a letdown for me, the bracelet on a watch of this price. However, everything else feels really high end, and you can see the finishing on the side of the case is absolutely splendid. It has the wonderful brushed edge on the side there, and the bevels are polished, and the top of the lugs is all brushed. Very well done. The bezel action is beautiful. You probably can't hear that, but it's a very imperceptible sound that just clicks very smoothly and flows wonderfully. No backplay at all. Really tight and lines up perfectly. So the bezel is great. The glass is a domed sapphire glass, unusual for a Seiko, but you'd expect that for this price point, and it's very well done. I love that dome, looks really good. And then the beautiful grey sunburst dial goes very nicely with that bezel. The indices are all applied and edged with that highly polished silver chrome finish. And of course you've got the wonderful Seiko Lume Bright, which really does glow well, as you'd expect. And it is an extremely handsome looking dive watch. So now you can really appreciate the finishing that's gone into this watch, and you can see why this is a far superior watch than the standard mid-range Seiko dive watches. Really is very well finished. Superb detailing on the markers. You can see the wonderful finishing on the hands. One side is polished and the other is brushed. Expert craftsmanship, really well finished. The bezel, lovely. The markers are very crisp and clear to read, etched into that stainless steel brushed bezel. Super clear, great contrast. It's when you look really close up like this you can start to see where the extra cost comes in and why this is so much more than your standard Seiko dive watch. Let's just have a look at the case back, and there we can see the Seiko wave design on the case back and the Prospex logo there. Beautiful. I love the polished areas, it looks so good against the dark grey dial. Beautiful. Really, really does look good. But still the question remains, is it worth the price? Well, let's look at another Seiko watch that is also more than your average price for a Seiko diver, and that's the similar, again these are, this is the, if you like, the reissue of the 62 MAS, and there is one that's even higher price, that's over $3,500. I'm not sure why that is so expensive. I have never held it. It does look beautiful, but that's a different story. This one is similar to this, but you can see the hands have the arrow style on there, and this one is the SPB143. Again, beautiful finishing, but this is quite a bit cheaper. It's around about $800 to $900. But why is this one so much more? I'm not entirely sure, because this also has the Zaratsu finishing on it. Beautiful bezel, same smooth action. It's also got the domed sapphire glass, beautiful blue dial, and the indices are really well applied as well. Very similar case back. The only real difference I can see is in the movements. This one has the 6R35 movement and this has the 6R15 movement, but I don't think there's a huge amount of difference in that movement. And this does have a 70-hour power reserve, which is the main advantage, but they're both pretty accurate and reliable, so I don't know, is it worth the extra price? And then of course you go down even further to this watch, which is the Seiko 5. That's around about $350 to $400, but that is more obvious to see where the price difference comes in. This is a beautiful, lovely watch, but you can just tell by feeling it, it's not the same standard as these two. It's very well made, very durable, but the finishing, although good, doesn't compare. So you can see here, this is very obvious, the price difference between this Seiko 5 and these two. But in my mind, the 053 is pretty much the same in standards and finishing as the 143. Just got a slightly better movement. Anyway, this really is one of Seiko's finest watches. It really is a beautiful piece. I just think it's slightly overpriced. $1,300–$1,200, just a bit too much for what you're getting, especially with this bracelet. It's a better bracelet than most of the Seiko watches I've seen, but it still leaves a lot to be desired. It's not perfect by any means. Too rattly, too squeaky, and not very well fitting. So I just think $1,200–$1,300 is a bit too much. Should be around about maybe $800 maximum, and maybe this one here, the SPB143, $600–$700. The retail price this sells for, you can get a lot more for your money with a Swiss-made watch. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. It's probably all down to the bracelet, if I'm really honest. If this was on a better bracelet, I probably wouldn't feel like that so much. It's just very disappointing. It deserves a much better bracelet. Anyway, let's get back to the good points. The best feature is its looks. It is an absolutely stunning looking diver's watch. The bezel is perfect, the size is perfect, the dial is captivating, the case finishing is superb. You've even got drilled lugs as well. The crown isn't signed, which is not a big deal, just a bit odd. It is a screw down crown, of course, and very smooth action. Lovely pop. So let's see how that looks on the wrist. See, looks fantastic on the wrist, really well proportioned. Hugs the wrist really well with those curved lugs. Very comfortable. Looks great. Really handsome piece. And now let's have a look at the marvellous lume. Always loved doing Seiko lume shots. So that's about it for this watch. It is an absolute beauty. Really happy with it. Just a bit overpriced in my opinion. But that does not detract from the qualities that this watch brings. It's a lovely piece to own. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.